and they were buried here in a hastily dug hole. In 1857, Mr. Leggett, a well-known Geelong stonemason, created this monument, and it was erected here in 1857. And you can look at the names that are there, and the interesting thing is you'll find, although many of them are Irish, others come from all parts of the world. I mean, this has been kind of site of pilgrimage for many different groups over decades, and obviously when most of us are gone, it will continue to be a site of pilgrimage, because this is about people paying the ultimate sacrifice for what they believed in. And as we spoke this morning, the essential elements of the Eureka Rebellion are incorporated in the Eureka Oath. We swear by the Southern Cross to stand truly by each other and fight to defend our rights and liberties. And we, internationalists, everybody, we swear by the Southern Cross to stand truly by each other. Solidarity, which is the essence of any successful community-based movement or the trade union movement. So we swear by the Southern Cross to stand truly by each other and fight to defend our rights and liberties. Direct action, right? We don't have to die for direct action. And also the mechanism by which they created their rebellion was through a direct democratic means, the mass meetings. So we come here to celebrate that fact. Although it happened 171 years ago, the essence of what they died for is still the very essence of most struggles in this country and around the world. Now, so this was erected in 1857. Now, over there is the grave of John Humphrey, where you see the little bronze plaque which was put up there in 2005. And the Eureka Stockade Committee raised funds to rehabilitate his grave, which had fallen into disrepair. Now, John Humphrey was the first chairperson of the Ballarat Reform League, which was formed on the 11th of November 1854, and he lost that position when those who believed in force took over the movement because the government refused to negotiate with them. Now, he died a pauper, and the people of Ballarat raised money to bury him because he was held in high esteem, and he wanted to be buried near the Eureka Rebels, and he's buried there. We can have a look at his grave. And it's interesting that in 2005, Humphrey Street, which is named after him, on which the Queen Victoria Hotel is about 4 or 5 kilometres long, and they knocked 2004 on every door for donations, and only one business donated money to the grave site. And as I keep saying, the people of Ballarat really have forgotten what they have. It's not their fault. The successive councils have really refused to take on Eureka celebration as a significant part of their lives. And those of you who came here and went past the Ballarat Town Hall, you'll notice that 171 years later, although the Ballarat City Council and Ballarat businesses use the symbols of Eureka, the Eureka flag, to augment their power and their profits, they pay nothing in terms of remembering the legacy and the fact that blood was spilt on that day. So it's a sad thing, but it's also a great thing that even if there are 2 of us here, that we remember, because remembering is critical to who we are. If we don't remember the past, we can't understand the present, and we'll never change the future. And that's one of the main reasons we organise this event, so that there are people who will remember. And there's different people every year, and over the last 23 years we've had hundreds, if not thousands, of people have paid their respects. Now, down there, we'll go down there in a minute, is the grave of James Scobie. He was the miner who got into a bit of a drunken fight with security at Bentley's hotel. He was knocked about and left to die in the cold. He died that night. And a few days later, thousands of miners gathered at the Bentley Hotel and burnt the hotel down. And 11 miners were arrested, and 3 were tried and jailed. So James Scobie is buried there. Interestingly, about 20 years ago, I came across remnants of the Bentley family, which was the descendants of Mr. Bentley, who took an overdose of cyanide on the steps of the Victorian Parliament House, protesting in 1870 that he was innocent, and his family still believe that James Scobie never died and there's nobody buried in the grave. Although if you look around that grave, there are a number of people who are buried in that grave. But that's interesting. And they were suing the Victorian government. Now, I've heard of lost causes, and I'm part of many lost causes in my lifetime, but that's a big one. So there's James Scobie, and then we've got the monument to the 6 soldiers and some of their family members who died later on, because it's a cheap way to intern people, and we'll have a look at that. Now that wasn't erected until 1871. 1871. Although those men had gave up their lives protecting the state, the citizens of Ballarat and their councils didn't even acknowledge their president. It wasn't until 1871 that a monument was erected, and we've had stonemasons here, and they'll tell us that this is good craftsmanship and it's pretty shoddy down the road. But the interesting thing is, and I'll read it out, is propaganda. In every struggle there is propaganda. We see it today, we saw it in 1850s, 60s and 70s. And I want you to remember this, because when those of you who come down to the soldiers' graves will read what's on that monument, you'll see how there's different interpretations of the same event. It says, "In memory of those who fell on the memorable 3rd of December in resisting the unconstitutional proceedings of the Victorian government." All right? It is in memory of those who fell on the memorable 3rd of December 1854 in resisting the unconstitutional proceedings of the Victorian government. So that's what's been erected there. Now, any questions? And also after that, I'm happy for people to speak. Any questions? Have I beaten you into submission?
What do you mean unconstitutional? What's that bit?
Well, that means that they believe that the struggle they were conducting against the state at that particular point in time was being conducted illegally by the state. That's what you mean by unconstitution. They weren't following the constitution of the period. Like we have an Australian constitution, right, which protects us in a few limited ways. Now the government has to act, if you live in a parliamentary democracy or even in any type of government that's got a constitution, has to act in regards to the powers that are conferred on it by the constitution. It doesn't matter, they do have a constitution, it's an unwritten constitution. And they made laws for Victoria from 1840 onwards. Right? So there was a constitution, right? And the miners and the shopkeepers, well, it wasn't just miners, it was miners, shopkeepers believed that their struggle was against the unconstitutional actions of the government, which was corrupt, which was what wasn't listening to them, etc., etc. So that word is pivotal. That's what unconstitutional means. Would anybody like to speak? Anybody like to say a few words? If not, we'll keep going. Nobody wants to say any words. This is unbelievable. A whole group of activists, people with a lifelong commitment to opening their mouths and articulating their ideas.
So where's the problem store?
He's not here, mate. They reckon, well, Gaz has got an interesting story. Now, Edward Fonan, who's buried here, he's Jewish. He was a lemonade salesmen on the goldfields. Remember, not everybody was stupid enough to dig for gold. Other people were smart enough and they were selling stuff to the miners, right? He was one of the 30 pikemen which resisted the advance of the British troops and the mounted police. Now, pike is just a long piece of wood. It's got a little curve at the end, which is metal, and the idea of the pike is to cut the bridle so the rider is, has lost their balance, and then whack with the pole, whack the horse, so the horse skittles away and the rider falls off. Now, 15 of them died. Edward Fonan had about 15 musket balls in his body. Now, it's been proven over a number of years that Edward Fonan owned a little dog, right? That's why it's called the pikeman's dog, because he was a pikeman. And the story goes that the dog was inconsolable. And as the bodies were being brought up, the dog was sitting on Edward Fonan's coffin or body, right? And the story goes that one of the soldiers hit him on the head and chucked him in the grave. And that was the end of the pikeman's dog. Now, if you go to the Eureka Centre, you will see a memorial to the pikeman's dog, because he was given the highest honour an animal can receive, I think a number of years ago.
1997.
1997, thank you. And, he's looking at bloody Google. Piss, I don't look at that stuff, go away.
Well, the dog is called Wee Jock.
Oh, that's...
Irish Terrier.
It's bullshit.
And he was posthumously awarded.
It wasn't Wee Jock, that was made up. Edward Fonan was from, he's Prussia. He wouldn't call his bloody dog Wee Jock. I mean, you can believe anything you read on that shit, don't you?
Anyway,
Oh mate, go away. Go away.
Purple Cross in 1997. So there you go.
Go away. He won the Purple Cross. We agree with that, which is what? 1997? Oh, that's about 140 years later. So he's all right. But thanks. If you came from Prussia, you were German speaking, you're a Jew, and you had a dog, would you call it Wee Jock? Come on.
Wee Jock.
Come on. All right. Now,
It could be wrong. I will stand corrected if there's anything.
Thank you. I can't believe this. People are getting Google and thinking it's true. Now, if we come down here, if there's no more questions you don't want to speak, if you come down here.
John, is there a story about the Lieutenant Ross?
Yeah, Lieutenant Ross is buried here too.
Yeah, is there a story behind it?
Yeah, Lieutenant Ross was the bridegroom of the Eureka flag. It was his job to protect the Eureka flag, and he stood at the bottom of the flagpole. He was shot in the guts during the raid. He was carried to a local hotel where he died 3 hours later in agony. Lieutenant Ross was from Canada, but he took up this struggle because he believed in what the miners were fighting for. And he's buried here also, Lieutenant Ross. And he didn't have a dog called Wee Jock.
Why was he called Lieutenant? Was he?
He was a real lieutenant.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Canadian Armed Forces at that particular point in time. So that was his on. So in those days, although you weren't a member, you continued to have that honorific, lieutenant. That's why it's called lieutenant. Any more questions? All right, if we come over here, we'll read you what's written. Now this was the grave of John Bassoon Humphrey. Now he, come in closer. He, as I said, was the first elected leader of the Ballarat Reform League on the 11th of November 1854. And he died in 1891 destitute. He was elected at a number of occasions as the member for Ballarat for the newly established Legislative Assembly. That headstone had fallen into the grave, and it was in a terrible mess. Now, obviously, you would think that the fact that it's a UNESCO grave, you would think there would be a budget to repair it, but there was no budget to repair it. And I did speak at one stage to the director of the old Ballarat cemetery, and they obviously stated they didn't actually have the money. So, money was raised, the grave was repaired, and this little thing was. I'll see if I can read it. The headstone sacred to the memory of the Honourable John Bassoon Humphrey, who led in Ballarat the constitutional struggle. There's that word again, constitutional struggle. Following struggle for political reform in Victoria. He was the first member for West Ballarat in the Reformed House of Assembly and the first Minister of Mines for the said colony. Born in Newtown, Montgomeryshire. Who's got better eyes from me? Montgomeryshire in Wales. North Wales, my apologies. Got the spirit. You read it out for me, you got better eyes.
Do you want me to read it? Okay. So,
Start the beginning.
To the memory of the Honourable John Bassoon Humphrey, who led in Ballarat the constitutional struggle for political reform in Victoria, was the first member for West Ballarat, Renville, in the Reformed Parliament, and the first Minister of Mines for the said colony. Born at Newtown, Montgomeryshire, North Wales, 17th of April 1824, died in Ballarat, 18th of March 1891. And then there's a tribute in Welsh, which I won't try to read unless there's a Welsh speaker here who can come and do that. This tablet and grave enclosure were erected by the public in memory of valuable services, grave restoration undertaken by the Eureka Stockade Memorial Association, 2006.
See, that's another organisation which is now defunct, died. And that's the history of the memories surrounding the Ballarat Rebellion. As organisations come and go, we had the young Eureka League, which was the young section of the Communist Party in the 1930s. Then we had Irish nationalists who came here on a regular basis every Eureka Day. Then you had the Eureka Stockade Association. So as each generation dies, new groups come to honour the rebels, and that's why we're making very big efforts to work with Ballarat Regional Trades and Labour Council, because they are the body that should actually be promoting the miners' side of the story, in our opinion anyway. There was a change in the secretary. Former Secretary Brett Edgerton was kicked out for a variety of political reasons by the Trades Hall in Melbourne, and the new secretary has been put in. Is a wonderful person, but really wasn't really briefed about the role that the council plays. All right, let's move on. If we go down that pathway, right down. Any questions about Mr. Humphrey? No? Okay. Anybody speak Welsh? We're in the Welsh section. You speak Welsh?
No, but would you like a makeshift mic sock? It's not the most dignified in the world, but it does the job.
I'm Scottish, heritage Georgian.
Yeah. Make it nice little loosey-goosey.
Well, I'm not going to need a microphone. That's okay.
How do you make you can hear yourself just then? There's too many people asking what's wrong in this place.
Little pig at the bottom. Don't break it.
A little point. A little point. I know you love chewing me up. But I mean, that other side of the job, you don't know, and anybody can add to that. Just put AI on there. No, that's more than just AI. Anybody can Eureka Rebels. Anyway, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? That's what it says. That's what I said. But he just
happens in a vacuum. So the problem was that when James Scobie was killed or murdered, the case went to a crooked coroner's court, and the coroner's court didn't find that he'd been murdered, that he died accidentally. And that's what led to the burning of Bentley's Hotel, and that was the impetus for the creation of the Ballarat Reform League, because people had no trust whatsoever in the government of the day. Now, so all I can say is this is another important stepping stone to the Eureka Rebellion on the 3rd of December. The murder of James Scobie and the exoneration of those responsible by a coroner's court which was packed with government appointees. Now, if we come this way, now this little area here is actually a British war cemetery. Actually, I was wrong, it's 1979, even later. And if you come over here, there's no point, it's alright, you can stand on the dead, stand on us. People are buried here, not in a mass grave, but in individual graves, so you're not going to step on anybody. And I'll read you out what's here. In this place, with other soldiers and civilians of a military camp, then in Ballarat, were buried the remains of the British soldiers Henry Christopher Wise, Captain, Michael Rooney and Joseph Wall, privates of the 40th Regiment, William Webb, Felix Boyle and John Hall, privates of the 12th Regiment, who fell dead or fatally wounded at the Eureka Stockade in brave devotion to duty on Sunday the 3rd of December 1854, while attacking a band of aggrieved diggers in arms against what they regarded as a tyrannous administration. And then underneath, not far west from this spot, lie the remains of some of the diggers who fell in their courageous but misdirected endeavour to secure the freedom which soon afterwards came in the form of manhood, suffrage and, big letters, constitutional government. Alright, propaganda. Now, talking about propaganda, you always need a little child being killed by the nasty other side to actually boil the blood of the citizens. Here, in this spot, lay the remains of the 12-year-old little drummer boy. Remember, in those days they had little boys beating drums in front of the troops, right? And on the 29th of November, when there was the last diggers hunt in the diggings before the Eureka Stockade was established, it was said that the 12-year-old little drummer boy was murdered by the diggers, and he was buried here in this grave. Now, Dorothy Wickham, who I think is the foremost authority, yep, on about the women in Eureka, involved in the Eureka struggle, and she did much more work than Claire Wright, much more time, but she didn't get the publicity or the acknowledgement. She went through the records and discovered that the little drummer boy wasn't seriously injured. He continued to be part of I think it was the 12th Regiment, and it was even court-martialed because of his outrageous behaviour as a man, right? So he never died. And what her research led to the removal of the headstone here, which supposedly had for, over 150 years denigrated the miners as the murderers of a child. That's propaganda at its best. If it wasn't for her meticulous research, it would never have been discovered. Now, if you look here, you've got the word duty, you've got constitutional government, it's all here. You've got the British flag, because this is a British war memorial.
On the other side, it says erected by the citizens of Ballarat.
No, they got a grant from the Victorian government.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a grant, a £50 grant from the Victorian government, who was ashamed of the situation because this was just overgrown. Nobody had taken any care of it. There's no respect had been shown to the soldiers, and this was erected hastily. If you look at it, it looks more like a concrete type of thing, but it was erected hastily.
The citizens of Ballarat knew the truth.
Well, you see, no, the trouble has been, this was a rebellion against the monarchy. This was a moment of shame for the burghers, the good burghers of Ballarat. It wasn't a moment to be celebrated. It got to such a degree that even the Eureka Oath was changed. The Eureka Oath was changed to, we swear by the Southern Cross to stand truly by each other to defend our rights and liberties. And the word "and fight" was removed from the oath. And it's interesting, when Fitzsimmons wrote his book on Eureka, he asked me to proofread it, and I said, no, but I eventually agreed because he gave me a bottle of champagne. I'm easily won over. And I rang up and I said, Fitzy, I said, do you realise you've made a fundamental mistake with all your researchers? He doesn't write the book. He has money, he gets researchers, then he puts it together. I said, you realise that the Eureka Oath in your publication says, we swear by the Southern Cross to stand truly by each other to defend our rights and liberties. And there's no "and fight" in it. So,
Should put it back in.
oh, well, obviously he put it back in. Obviously they would have lost all credibility. Yeah, so that's good. So there's all this propaganda because the Royal Commission in 1855 found that most of the death that occurred after the camp had been overrun, and it was basically a police riot. Most of the killing occurred from Victoria Police, and in 2004 we asked the said police commissioner to issue an apology for that massacre. Obviously that apology was never forthcoming, but it was raised, and that's the important thing.
That's a new police commissioner from New Zealand might help.
Oh, good, yeah. Yeah, good, mate. Put you in jail soon.
Who knows?
So all I'm saying is, all struggles are about propaganda.
That's right.
And we're here to reverse the propaganda. And that's why people say, why don't you give us much, why don't you talk about the soldiers? Well, I say, well, that's not our role. Our role here is to remember the miners and what they died for. The soldiers were the states. They belong to the state. It's up to the state to remember that. And we saw that this morning when Angela went to the ceremony, and it was more about the soldiers than the miners. So the propaganda continues because, and we called it, we talk about reclaiming the radical spirit of the Eureka Rebellion, because it's been whitewashed, it's been hidden, it's been ignored, it's been changed over and over again. And it's only, look, today, we should have had thousands of people in Ballarat marching.
They're sitting on marketing gold mine and they're staring them in the face.
Well, they still make money out of it because they use the Eureka symbols.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the businesses here use the Eureka symbols. They should be taxed.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
It is amazing.
And most people in Ballarat would not know what the 3rd of December is. That's our experience over the years. They have no idea. It's not their fault.
It's not their fault. No.
I mean, that's the role of the council. There have been mildly reformist councils, which we had good relationships with about 15 years ago, and they took it up, but very little else. Now, any questions about the cemetery? Oh, I can't tell you where your relatives are buried, all right?
It's a beautiful place.
It is a beautiful place. But look at this. Look how well kept this is. Look how it's mowed, the flags put up, people who's buried individual plots, they're given respect. And then you look at the Eureka grave and you compare it. Decent human beings.
She is. She got sacked from the council as well.
That's right. And she was mayor at one stage. Yeah.
She was a bit too progressive for us.
Right. That's the man that I was talking about. Yeah. Any questions? The next phase, if you're up to it, is at 3 o'clock. I'll be doing a presentation at the Eureka Centre. There is no entry fee. You can go in, have a look. The beauty is when you walk in, you'll see part of the display in the atrium, and there's a big picture of us, our crew, carrying that same banner that's strapped there through the streets of Ballarat. When we were younger, we used to do a 13-kilometre march. We didn't drive from place to place. So that's there. There's something like so we have reasonably friendly relationship with the Eureka Centre where we tolerate each other. That's about it.
Is the cafe open there? It's a close finish. I think it closes at 3. It closes at 3. Yeah.
I thought it closed down.
They were looking for someone to take it
Yeah,
over.
it's closed down.
Really? Is it closed?
It's really.
Nobody was going there. Well, who'd want the job?
Yeah, but the thing is, it's a place which is built with federal money, owned by Ballarat City Council, and they got the flag, the most important colonial relic in this country, much more important than Ned Kelly's armour, much more important, and they make no attempt to capitalise on it, none whatsoever, because of that deep shame. This is a rebellion. It's a rebellion against the state. It's an armed rebellion. It's a rebellion which led to the death of soldiers, authorities, as well as miners. And that's what we've got to remember, that radical tradition. That's what it's about, the radical tradition. That's what it's about. That's what the rebellion is about, the radical tradition. So at 3 o'clock, and then I implore you to come tonight to the dinner. At 6 o'clock at the Queen's Head Hotel, you just pay for your own food and drinks. If you just want a drink, just have a drink. We've booked 20 places. There are still places available. So pop in, meet some like-minded people, have a good chat, and talk to them.
A big thanks to you too, Joe, and the Institute.
Thank you. Thank you. Look, it's a pleasure. I usually start at 4 a.m. I'm depressed because of the lack of numbers. Then we get, hang on, this is the truth. Then we come to the presentations and I'm elated. Then I come here, I'm even happier. Then I go and do the presentations and I'm even happier. And then I fall asleep at the dinner. Oh yeah, I forgot. 1 o'clock right now, down to Trades Hall and have a free lunch. Free lunch and buy some drinks at the bar. So it's welcome. It's at 24 Camp Street where the soldiers encampment was. That's why it's called Camp Street. You're welcome to go down there. It's an old building, it's historic, it's falling apart, but it's there. So we'll see you for lunch, and then we'll see you at 3, then we'll see you at dinner, then we'll see you next year. But I assume most of us, you won't come back next year, because doing it once can be enough. And I'd like to thank this young lady again for reciting the Eureka Oath. It's good to see young people here, even if they're dragged here by their parents. Thank you.